Democrats released their Project 2029 plan, where they outline how they plan to implement mass online censorship under the guise of protecting children. As the pendulum swings once again, and as MAGA predictably fails the working class, Democrats are already making plans on what they're going to do once they take charge, and it already sounds like neoliberal hell. Democrats plan on pushing the same reforms that we've seen in the UK and Australia, where there is a massive crackdown on free speech under the guise of protecting the children and fighting disinformation. Think about it for a second. If they ban everyone under the age of 16 from social media, that means that you have to prove that you're over the age of 16. It's a Trojan horse for implementation of digital IDs. And don't be foolish and believe that this is about protecting the children. Do you really believe the Epstein class, who is responsible for the mass slaughter of children overseas, actually give a damn about that? No, it's about information control. They witnessed an entire generation turn against Israel because they saw the mass slaughter that was going on in Gaza on their social media feed. This is all about the ruling class attempting to once again monopolize the information that people can see. So once Democrats take power again, and the American people are reminded that they are pro-censorship, authoritarian tyrants who also will fail the working class, the pendulum will swing once again to elect J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, or the next MAGA candidate of choice.
Oh, shit. Here we go again. Worst place in the world.
What's poppin'? My friends, my family, welcome back. We have a Nick in the afternoon today. Had some plans. You guys know I had to kick it with some family for this holiday weekend. I don't care much for the holiday. I just love seeing my family, my folks. So we're gonna be in the lab cooking a little bit earlier today. How you guys doing? I try to be a little less unhinged than I usually am for the spirit of the holiday. Not that I necessarily apologize for it. I'm a little upset because there's way too much toxic positivity going on in the left right now. We need more anger. Where was the anger that we felt during the Biden administration when people were screaming at them for supporting genocide? Because I'm still angry. I'm still furious. And before I get started, I have to give a shout out to Israel Exposed, because big tech has colluded with Jewish supremacists and the genocidal politicians in order to take down the documentation of the genocide that NATO government supported, that the Democratic Party supported. There was journalists who had their YouTube account taken down. Palestinian journalist was mass banned on social media. And there's a reason why you don't see a lot of those horrific videos as much as we used to. It's because Israel engaged in a systemic mass murdering of journalists in Gaza. This is a crime against humanity that Western governments still cannot reconcile with to this day. The same governments who support Israel, they accept their crackdown on journalism within Gaza. The quote-unquote most moral army in the world, who denied genocide despite the fact that we all seen it with our two eyes. They will ban Western journalists and they will just accept it. The BBC will be like, yeah, we have to operate with permission of the IDF. You have no questions about that? Remember, Russia is allowing journalists to operate in Ukraine. Never forget that. So we don't got a lot of footage like we used to because these journalists were systematically murdered. That's one way they help cover up the genocide. Genocidal Western corporate media who's complicit with these crimes would then smear the journalists that Israel murdered. And they're like, don't you know that this reporter supports Hezbollah? You mean the most popular political party in Lebanon. So based on their genocidal terrorist ideology, if Iran, Hamas, Yemen, Russia, if they was to assassinate a Republican senator, things they don't do, if they was to go after anyone who's a Republican, according to their genocidal logic, that would be fair game. But this is their hypocrisy, which is the highest form of corruption, because they call them terrorists for going after and killing genocidal IDF soldiers who are invading their country and their sovereignty. They call Hamas terrorists because they fight back against their colonizer. So which is it? Are you allowed to kill journalists because they support Hezbollah? But meanwhile, you condemn people who are your enemies, like Hamas, for killing the people who are occupying them? Once you decolonize your mind, you can't help but to see these contradictions. And the slaughter in Gaza still continues as everyone is going on brunch right now, as we're celebrating NBA championships from the New York Knicks and the Zionist-ran NBA, as you guys are having goy parades, celebrating these concessions of the ruling class. They are annexing the West Bank. They're still engaging in mass slaughter of the Palestinian people. So why do people on the left keep bringing up victories? What victories? The Palestinians are still being slaughtered to this day. They murdered the Ayatollah, including his grandchildren, his grandson, his son-in-law. They murdered his entire family, and that's what we're going to cover here soon. The funeral that is uniting the world. We've seen them kidnap Nicolas Maduro. We still have the working class that is struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. We have a working homelessness population right now. Why is everyone so happy right now? Why do everyone keep pretending that there's a victory to be had? I just see the Zionist regime and I see the Epstein class consolidating their power. But let's just take our tranquilizing drugs as they continue to murder our Palestinian brothers and sisters, while your hero Zohran Mamdani facilitates land sales by Zionists in New York by protecting them against protests, very legitimate protests. As Zohran Mamdani and your heroes are condemning the Ayatollah, and they repeated Mossad talking points, just like Dr. Cornel West, saying that Iran murdered thousands of their people. That is what your boy Zohran said. He's one of the most talented politicians of all time. The way he shifted many people to the right, where they don't care about these issues anymore, is unbelievable. That's what your boy said. Helping manufacture consent for their aggression against Iran. And everyone called out Cornball West. Fam, if AOC said what Zohran Mamdani said, and I'm going to show you guys this later in the show, people will have her fucking head. People will never forgive AOC if she repeated the Mossad lie that Iran murdered thousands of their people like Zohran Mamdani did. And say that Iran is an oppressive government, as he has no criticism of NATO, who's implementing mass austerity. So as you guys are taking these devil's bargains, as you guys are injecting these tranquilizing drugs of a potential welfare state, you guys are doing propaganda for the empire to legitimize their terrorism. And then everybody Nick, don't you know Zohran Mamdani condemned Trump war against Iran? They don't give a fuck. The only thing they need for you is to legitimize their talking points that they use to justify their aggression. All they need you to do is condemn Putin. All they need you to do is condemn Cuba. All they need you to do is condemn Venezuela and Maduro as a tyrant. All they need you to do is to condemn Iran, and then they handle the rest. Thank you for the propaganda, boo-boo. They don't give a fuck if you give a speech saying, oh, well, we don't want you to bomb the country. Well, you already legitimized their narrative. And social democrats do that. The DSA do that so they can fit in with a genocidal party. So big shout out to Israel Exposed for talking about this, because we're gonna dive into the NATO left a little bit later as well. Because there's a website, genocide.com, where they documented all the war crimes that Israel committed. They have 6,537 videos, 17,905 photos. Fam, you guys realize that this account, Israel Exposed, may be the most important account on social media? You guys realize that, right? 10 million views. How long until Zionists try to hack it? But the service that Israel Exposed did for us, he has backups on top of backups behind backups. And he got people who have backups. And he implored you to download a backup. We are never going to allow the ruling class to get away with the crimes that they committed against our brothers and sisters in the Middle East. The people that the DSA left, the people that the progressive Democrats don't even really treat as human. They treat them as bargaining chips. Oh yeah, we should do a little Mossad. We do a little Mossad propaganda for you, Empire. Can you help us get elected? They will refuse to say that Israel does not have a right to exist. They won't say it. The country that committed genocide, the mandatory IDF recruitment by Israel, where they committed massive atrocities in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria. I'm beyond just free Palestine. We need to get on board for justice for Palestine. Accountability. You guys realize that 20,000 Americans have served the IDF since 2023 to help them commit their war crimes. Meanwhile, the DSA is embracing people like Brad Lander, who helped fund the IDF, who condemned BDS, making trade-offs with the Zionist regime and selling out the Palestinian people who are currently under siege. The progressive left pretend that this fight is over, like they won. Oh, we won an election. That means the genocide in Gaza must be over. No, it's still going on. They're still annexing the West Bank, and your homies are facilitating that. When Zohran Mamdani engages in a mass crackdown on free speech and bans the right to protest synagogues who are selling Palestinian land for $1 in the West Bank, that's him being an active agent for Zionism. That is a fact. No political theater, no platitudes, no brilliant speeches. He gives a good speech. None of that. What are you materially doing to fight the Zionist regime? Oh, you're helping crack down on protests. You're hiring their agents like Jessica Tisch. You are supporting a genocide dare to one of the most powerful positions in the United States in Hakeem Jeffries. This is their movement. Did it seem like they're angry about what we've seen in the genocide that has been documented? To me, it doesn't. And I said it many times before. I would never in a million years make the trade-off to supporting U.S. empire, which they do de facto. They support NATO. We're going to get to that NATO a little bit later as well. They support NATO. They support killing Russians. They support NATO despite them implementing mass austerity. Just because that's how much they hate Russia. They're not looking for accountability. They just want to use Palestine to win elections. See the difference? They want a career climb using Palestine. They want a hashtag free Palestine. Let's make an ad about it. I want accountability. I want justice for Palestine. I want Hakeem Jeffries to be tried for war crimes. I'm not going to support his political power. Is the United States left crazy? Yes, it is. Hakeem Jeffries support the murder of the Ayatollah. He says it's a good thing. Zohran Mamdani condemned the Ayatollah. This is his little girl. I think this is his grandchild. Getting to the funeral here. You notice how no one in DSA left is covering this? Zoran is busy condemning the Ayatollah, the religious figure that was murdered by the Epstein regime. Iran, the dominant center of Shia Islam, the Ayatollah is like their pope figure. And the West just normalized the slaughter of him and his family. Yeah, granddaughter. This is her. Look at this. Music also I don't get copyrighted. This is his granddaughter who was also part of his funeral. This is what the United States, this is who they murdered. Meanwhile, you guys celebrating victory? Look at this sweet girl that your beloved United States military took out on the orders of the Epstein regime. And people will legitimize this as a legitimate military action. You guys know I listen to the enemies. I listen to what CNN and MSNBC and them say. They're like, yes, it was fantastic that they murdered the Ayatollah. Maybe this will free the Iranian people. Celebrating mass assassinations. Jesus Christ, it makes me sick, man. You guys should hear the evil stuff they say about Iran and their religious leader, the Ayatollah. And they don't even bring up the fact that his family was murdered. This is her coffin at the bottom during the funeral. How are you guys not angry as I am on light of this? Everyone is just going to brunch, following political theater, and this is what our government is doing, and this is what Hakeem Jeffrey supported. Hakeem Jeffrey said, every single Democrat says, fam, I watch these people. I spare you guys. I don't show you guys all the stuff. Every Democrat was like, yeah, I have problem with the way Trump is prosecuting this war, but we do got to admit it's great that he murdered Khamenei, the Ayatollah, and his family. This is our government. Why aren't people furious about the crimes that our ruling class committed? Cheering on the murder of this child? Do you think that makes you a patriot? You think that makes you a tough guy? And people will say I'm being an ultra. That's what the new DSA cope is. They're like, well, you guys are just ultras. Fam, the global majority is mourning the death of the Ayatollah. You have representatives for over 100 countries. I'll just put this in the background. Over 100 countries that are here. This is almost a unifying moment for humanity because the genocidal West is snarking at this. Trump is attacking them for this. Even the NATO left, even the Zoran Mamdani left won't say anything nice about this funeral. And people don't feel like they're betrayed by them, that they're willing to side with the Epstein regime over these amazing people. Look how devastated they are. I was watching a lot of footage of this funeral, and it's a ton of tears. This is the family. Because they lost not only their leader, they lost her parents, the grandchild. This is the religious figure, their pope that our government murdered. And people just celebrate the election. Do you understand why I'm kind of a little bit unhinged and going insane in the light of the moment we're in right now? People are not me in the moment. Well, as a progressive left, they won't say anything about this because they don't want to get smeared as supporters of the regime. But the global majority is here every step of the way. China sent representatives. Russia sent representatives. Over 100 countries that represent the majority of the world population is grieving this family and the genocide committed by the West. Meanwhile, they want to be part of the machine. They want to be managers of the machine. They want to condemn these people who we should consider our brothers and sisters. So, do people understand why I'm a little bit unhinged in this moment? Why I don't want to join a genocidal party that is complicit with this? I want to build something more than that. We have the people on our side. Even they will admit they would defeat their own argument. They're like, well, you have to admit these Zionist Democrats losing their primaries is good because it shows that the people are ready for change. Okay, so you make the argument to show that people want to replace these two Zionist corrupt parties with people who want to fight for the people. The people are on our side. You're facilitating the mechanisms that keep them within a genocidal party that betrayed the working class. So yes, it's good when these Zionist war criminals lose, but we should use that momentum to build a party that is oppositional to the genocidal regime that cheers on the murder of the Iranian people. So much footage I can show you today. I'll play a few more. I was watching a live this morning. It's very heartbreaking to me because unlike the United States left, who will cheer on someone like Graham Plattner, they don't see the global South. They don't see our Persian and Arab brothers and sisters that the Western governments murder. They don't see them as real humans. They don't see them as real people. That's the only way you can explain their actions to me. I'll play a little bit of this.
اصلا نمیشه باورم که دیگه نیستی بینمون قصه یکی دوتا که نیست تو رو گرفتن ازمون تو رو گرفتن تو رو گرفتن ازمون سخت تحمل غمت وقت خدا حافظیه ما نمیدونیم به خدا رسم ودا با تو چیه.
So you guys gonna tell me you're gonna allow CNN, Washington Post, the Zionists who run our media, you're gonna allow Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and all these genocidal scumbags to convince you that we're supposed to hate these people? Excuse me. Excuse me. Getting a little bit too fired up. But you guys want to allow the ruling class to convince you to hate these people? Their enemy is not our enemy. As the Zohar Mamdani left is busy condemning them in order to gain political power, I will never in a million years make this devil's bargain. I will never in a million years organize within a duopoly that is complicit with this crime. For what? Just from welfare programs? These are not our enemies. Not that it matters, but Iran always had our back, the same way our Russians, brothers and sisters, that the NATO left wants you to hate. They always had our back. When the Soviet Union was providing anti-racist propaganda and spreading it throughout the world, when they were spreading stories of the mass execution of black men in the United States, and they were like, hey guys, you guys can condemn the Soviet Union all you want, but you want to know what we're not doing? We're not facilitating lynchings of black men and separating people based on race. This is the propaganda that the Soviet Union, our Russian brothers and sisters spread, but black liberals and Democratic Party scumbag wants us to hate these people. These are unreconcilable differences on how we view humanity. So as the Soviet Union and as the Russian people has always been there with the Africans, as they've always been there with our black brothers and sisters, we have no reason to hate them. The working class as a whole has no reason to hate them, but I'm just diving deeper. Iran, who when they took hostages, once they liberated themselves from the Shah and the brutal Western installed puppet regime, they released all the Black Americans. You guys know that? You realize they never told you that? They said we refuse to hold Black Americans as hostage because they already been victimized by the West too much, and we don't want to be complicit with that at all. That's what our young Ayatollah said. But we're supposed to hate these people? The global majority don't fall for this. Our brothers and sisters in China, they don't fall for this. In Cuba, they don't fall for this. In Russia, they're not falling for this. You know who's falling for it, though? The Dr. Cornel West left. The Zoran Mamdani left. Every single one of these progressive Democrats, they all condemn Iran. They all say, yeah, well, they're a brutal oppressive regime, with the hard R. They're a regime. We're supposed to hate them because the CIA tells us to hate them. But they always had our back. Look, this is what he said April 15th. As you have these culture war, brain-rotted white Americans who refuse to allow Trayvon Martin to rest in peace. Fam, you guys realize that what's his name, George Zimmerman? He was selling signed Skittles, celebrating the death of Trayvon Martin. They were selling hoodies that looked like the hoodie that Trayvon Martin wear. The same way that Charlie Kirk and the right made a meme out of George Floyd. You guys realize Americans celebrated the death of our brothers and sisters. Meanwhile, you got a bunch of coons, and I'm looking at Hakeem Jeffries and the entire Black Congressional Caucus, every single one of them, including Raphael Warnock. I saw where he condemned Iran too. That's Hassan Piker's boy. Hassan Piker loves Raphael Warnock. He's a fucking coon who condemned Iran as a brutal regime. He's like, yeah, I think Iran is a brutal regime, but I don't think Trump should bomb them, though. You guys are organizing with these white Americans who celebrate seeing us die, but you want to hate the Ayatollah and our Iranian brothers and sisters who bring up how we should be treated as humans? Someone please explain to me how this makes any sense. They can't. Their mind is more colonized than they can even fathom. This is Khamenei. I always mess his name up. That's why I always avoid saying it. This is his tweet from 2015. They celebrate a day for abolition of slavery, but such crimes are committed against blacks. Hashtag Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, Black Lives Matter. And this is just scratching the surface of the kind of positive support that you notice how Democrats and corporate media, they would never show Black Americans this. People like Wesley Bell, Jim Clyburn, they will never retweet this. They don't show you what our enemies say, the same way they don't tell you what Putin says. When Putin brings up the crimes that the United States committed against their own people, against their African brothers and sisters, which is why Africans are turning more towards Russia. So I refuse to allow my mind to be colonized so I can fit in with Democrats in the suburbanite DSA left. This is the country that they hate. Where is the squad? Where are your heroes? This is the death of a leader among Shia Islam for decades. One of the most beloved men in the world. Meanwhile, there's no Western progressives that are attending these funerals. They're not even tweeting about it. They have nothing to say about this. These are the people that you guys look up to, not me. You guys wonder why I'm not excited. Because I see their values. I see they delete their old tweets. Whenever they say something based in the past, like Dara Liza, they delete all their previous tweets, showing where they really stand. They have no spine. And people wanted me to celebrate this shit. Nope. I don't care if I told you guys 1,000 times on the channel. If I'm right and I feel like I have a strong argument and I think these things out, I'm kind of a professional thinker. They're like, Nick, what do you do? I'm kind of a professional thinker. And if I will stand on the Hill alone as you guys are having these tranquilizing drug parties celebrating the World Cup, New York NBA championships, as you guys are kicking it with Zoran Mamdani and Nina Turner. I will stand on the Hill alone and refuse to take the devil's bargain that you guys have. Just because you want to fit in with the Democratic Party, because you just want to win elections. What they do after that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Zoran Mamdani broke his promise not to expand the NYPD. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you crack down on pro-Palestinian protests. Doesn't matter if AOC funds the Iron Dome. Doesn't matter if they support Hakeem Jeffries. Doesn't matter. It's all about vibes. I'm doing well. I don't know about you guys. I'm doing well. None of that shit matters to me. I ain't thinking about no Iran. Shit. Nope. I'm not willing to make this trade. Here's our Russian brothers and sisters. Dmitry Medvedev. You guys should follow Dmitry Medvedev on X, bro. He's like one of the most. He like Putin's official shit talker. Putin makes a lot of jokes, but he's way more diplomatic. Medvedev is the guy who he ruthlessly criticizes and critiques and makes jokes about the United States empire. They can't stand this guy, nor would they ever interview him, because I'm very familiar with Medvedev's argument. He like the way he explained the history of NATO facilitating the rise of Nazism in Ukraine. Just for example, Putin has a cabinet full of historians, like people like Lavrov, Dmitry Medvedev. They will run circles around the clown show that is Pete Hegseth and Anthony Blinken. So essentially what I'm saying is Medvedev, he knows ball. He knows ball. He's the representative for Russia. He landed in Tehran. So the point, what I'm showing you guys right now is how the world is united behind this. So as people may accuse me of being an ultra, come on, you should be an ultra. Americans, you guys live in the most propagandized country in the world. And you guys are the global minority in how you guys view things. You understand? I'm not being an ultra. I'm not a radical leftist for saying what I'm saying. These are the common position that is held by ordinary people in China, for example. Like, have you guys seen what the Chinese people say about our government? If you go on Zhang Chu, Red Scroll, and all these Chinese social media, they talk to Americans all the time. Like, hey, Americans, are you aware of all the crimes that your country commit? We're just curious. Do you guys know? Do you support them? Can you guys explain? Like, do you guys know what your country is doing? Even the most progressive politicians. So even though I'm considered an ultra, someone who's not worthy of platforming on the United States left, I want people to understand that I represent the position of the global majority, our African brothers and sisters, our sisters in the global south, our brothers and sisters in China, our brothers and sisters in Russia. Americans don't even know how much they're in propaganda. Because look, Iran welcomed foreign leaders for Ayatollah's state funeral. Pakistan, I was just skimming it here. Delegations from China, Afghanistan, Turkmenistan. This is easily I would love to see a study on this or a write-up on this. Like, this is easy. What do you guys think? What? 60% of the population being represented with the countries. You got China. Is India? I don't know if India is there. Is India there? Do you guys know? I don't see it in the article. I'm actually curious. Is India at the funeral? Oh yeah, India's there. Look. So yeah, you got China and you have India. Indian delegation lead for Khamenei's funeral. So this is the global majority. India plus China, that's like 2.5 billion people right there. Let alone the majority of the Middle Eastern countries. You have Hamas there. Here's senior delegations from Hamas. It's only the genocidal West, the West that I don't want any part of, that views us as ultras because we joined the global majority for mourning this amazing man and religious figure. So this is my who else is that? Palestinian Islamic Jihad attended. Who else is there? Yeah, representatives for more than 100 countries. You even have these fucking scumbags. You guys see how everyone is trying to get a piece of the aura of this funeral. This is probably one of the biggest funerals in human history that we're witnessing right now. And you have Saudi Arabia, who was secretly supporting, who was helping facilitate the strike that murdered Khamenei and his family. I know a lot of people was upset about this. Did you hear what they recited for the Saudis? What did they put? There's so much content on this funeral. I need to look that up. Here, let's do a quick search. I would love to get an update from this. I know a lot of people wasn't happy, but what did it say about the massive influence of this funeral? The Houthis like, bro, we want to throw hands. And the first thing I was seeing looking at this, the Houthi warns that they will strike Saudi Arabia. Bless their hearts. I love Yemen. Yeah, this is why a lot of people are upset that they are at the funeral. They say Saudi Arabia tried to prevent an Iranian civilian aircraft from landing in Yemen. So the point I was making earlier, I don't know if I said it the best way, but they was complicit with the war crimes in Iran. So how desperate you have to be. But there is an important geopolitical take that you can have from them showing up. This shows that Saudi Arabia acknowledges how Iran is rising as a regional power and in a way kind of rebuking Donald Trump by doing this, by showing up at this funeral. It shows the shift of regional powers. But Saudi Arabia, we still got to acknowledge that they are, he's like, everyone's calling this out. Despite Saudi Arabia participating in attacks on Iran and allowed the U.S. and Israel to use its airspace and military bases, the Saudi delegation paid their respects to the Ayatollah Khamenei at the farewell ceremony in Tehran today. Meanwhile, the Western corporate media have been having a meltdown at this massive show of influence. Once again, many people are saying that this is the biggest funeral in human history. For at least a political leader, I would say that. I know Michael Jackson, he had a pretty big funeral. For a political leader, that when those genocidal inbred queens and kings of the British royal family, when they died, their funeral didn't touch this at all. The global majority are like, no, go fuck yourself. You guys think India was celebrating that after the crimes that they committed in India? So this is a massive narrative break for the West, who want to paint Iran as isolated. So this is not just me crying at the watching the funeral. There's a legitimate geopolitical take that you can have from this. And it's just an example of one of the batshit crazy, dehumanizing headlines that we've seen from the West. Yeah, this is much bigger than the Queen's funeral. Bro, this dwarf are the funerals that we've seen from the UK royalty. No one cares about these Epstein motherfuckers. They inbred. They admit they are inbred. Then they get mad when people bring it up because they try to keep the bloodlines pure. Bill, let me read this headline because this shows the Western attitudes towards this funeral. Here's CNN. Iran sends defiant message to Trump with colossal funeral for slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. So you guys see how they're terrified. The Western Epstein class, despite the narrative that they feed their propagandized population that Iran is isolated. No, it's you that grows more isolated every single day. Why do you guys think Donald Trump is making the aggressive actions to control shipping lanes, oil manufacturing in Venezuela, the same way he's trying to take control of the Straits of Hormuz? The empire is panicking because their NATO influence, and this is what BRICS is breaking down, is waning on the global majority. So look at how they dehumanize the Khamenei family. This is the family that you guys murdered. No, you notice how there's no condolences, no care about the human cost, the violence of their government. It just, Iran is defiant. They are defiantly mourning their leader. Someone who they viewed as a religion. Imagine if Iran murdered Eric Trump. What's the name of his brat? I don't even know his fucking name. Barron? Yeah, Barron Trump. They should take out Barron Trump. You understand the rage that even the people who claim to hate Trump, even the Trump derangement syndrome liberals, they be like, we gotta get Iran back for this. It will be never-ending war. This is why they don't do stuff like this. This is why Iran, Russia, and the enemies of the West are responsible stewards of global peace. Because they know what the reaction of the West is. The fact that Iran is even willing to negotiate with the West and end this war shows how responsible and how moderate they actually are. Because maybe if I was in charge, like if I was the Ayatollah, I'm like, if you guys can murder my father, murder his grandchild, murder our family, what's the point of this global order? I might well burn this shit down. The fact that they haven't shut down the Straits of Hormuz until now, it took you guys murdering over 160 Iranian school children. It took you murdering their Pope and his family for them to shut down the Strait sometimes. Do you guys understand how reasonable Iran has been throughout this entire conflict? This entire 40-year Cold War the West waged against them? They've been extremely responsible stewards of the global order, considering what they've been up against. But these are the people that the Zohar Mamdani left want to condemn. It makes me sick. It should make you sick. People wonder why I'm not okay with that. Here's someone who has the ear of the president. She meets the president all the time. There's rumors that she gave him some sloppy top, but we don't have to get into that. It's highly likely Laura Loomer gave her some sloppy top, but she got direct access to the president. And this is what she's saying. This is the Jewish supremacist terrorism that is normalized by one of our mainstream political parties. And RT, you guys know how RT is tweeting about this? I'm sure Press TV is on this. Bro, this has gained a lot of traction, unlike any other Laura Loomer tweet. Because everyone else in the world, like in Chinese media, and Russian media, and all the African medias, they looking at Laura Loomer and what she said. They're like, this is insane. Did she just say what we think she said? When she called for the bombing of the funeral of Khamenei? She called for the death of 20 million people, including women, children, elderly, and diplomats. Meanwhile, she will tell you that Muslims are the terrorists. She said a funeral for Khamenei, that's what we call a target-rich environment. The IDF has an opportunity to do the funniest thing. This is the deranged ideology of Jewish supremacy. Where Laura Loomer, just like Ben Gvir, is just one of the more honest ones. She's diagnosed as extremely mentally ill, and she can't even have a firearm. You guys know that she's not allowed to have a firearm because she's so crazy. So the people who are crazy, who don't have any self-control, she will say the quiet part out loud. You know, the things that they are taught in their genocidal synagogues. These are the conversations that they have among each other. Can you imagine how many Israeli group chats is filled with the same comment that Laura Loomer just said? Can you imagine all the Israeli Telegram channels that is making the same as lazy genocidal joke? Oh, we have the IDF can do the funniest thing right now. But Laura Loomer is the only person that is mentally ill enough to actually say it in public. It's pretty sickening, right? This is Zohran Mamdani. This is your homies. This is your leaders. This is your boy. Dragging you guys to the right. Can you imagine if AOC said this? Can you imagine? Because it's good to see, but AOC is way more publicly acceptable to criticize now. Zohran Mamdani right now is how AOC was like in the beginning. And me and my friend Zoya talk about this all the time. This is pattern recognition. We have pattern recognition where we see the same shit over and over again. Oh shit, Mamdani met with Obama. Oh, here we go again. Just like Jamal Bowman. Here we go again. So if you're one of the people who feel like Zohran Mamdani is above criticism, even though you guys love criticizing AOC now, though, imagine if AOC said what Mamdani said about Iran in the lead up of Donald Trump preparing to bomb them. And you guys wonder why I would never support this project that's willing to support imperialism and CIA narratives for free buses that haven't even come yet? Mamdani criticizes Iranian regime brutal government. This is what I mentioned earlier. While still condemning U.S. and Israeli attacks. Doesn't matter. You already did your part. They don't need the left to support their solution to the problem. They just need you to legitimize it. Now, let's play a game. Is this Zohran Mamdani or is this Neera Tanden? Should we play that game? Can you imagine if Chuck Schumer said something like this? I bet you all the Zohran Mamdani channels will cover it. They'd be like, do you see what Chuck Schumer said about Iran? But because Zohran Mamdani said it, no one's going to cover it. And the reason why I had to tweet this out is because I had another criticism where I was like, hey, you guys know that Zohran keep throwing Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba under the bus. Like, whenever I bring this up, Zohran Mamdani supporters will look at me like this. What? He said that? Oh, I didn't know you said that. I didn't know. Did he say that? You got a source for that, Nick? You know why they don't know what he says? Because the Bernie Media Industrial Complex would never show them. They never showed the fact that he threw Cuba under the bus. Never showed them that he threw Venezuela under the bus. They never showed how his wife, you know the wife that they stand, how she supported the head choppers in Syria. You guys see how these are unreconcilable differences? This is not me just nitpicking. This is why my critiques is so devastating, because there are a lot of people who have a lot of dumb criticisms of Zohran. No, I'm hitting you guys directly at geopolitics, things that are very important, because you guys claim to get the Palestine issue, but you have to understand that all these issues are connected. It doesn't matter if you get the Palestine issue right, if you get Syria wrong. It doesn't matter if you get Palestine right, if you get Iran wrong, if you condemn in Yemen, if you condemn in Venezuela and the Maduro government who never supported Israel. You guys see how if you study geopolitics and you're not allowing yourself to be dumbed down by the tranquilizing drug known as DSA electoralism, you can see the political flaws that they have that is legitimate to criticize. People like, Nick just being a wrecker. Nigga just jealous of Zohran Mamdani. Well, Zohran, he doesn't have to say this kind of stuff. You guys don't have to support NATO. These are real legitimate criticisms. You guys are supporting Nazis in Ukraine while condemning the resistance. You all condemn Hamas. Even the best one among you, Darren Liza, she deleted all her tweets supporting Palestinians' right to engage in resistance and create that two-state solution that you guys claim you support. Zohran Mamdani and them like, I support the implementation of a two-state solution. How? If the Palestinians fight back, you would then condemn them like you guys always do. Well, I believe that Israel doesn't have a right to exist as a Jewish state. Look at me, I'm Zohran Mamdani. Be tranquilized. That's what I believe. Fam, as long as you got people like Ben Gvir in the genocidal colony that was born off the back of a genocide called the Nakba, it doesn't matter if they call themselves a Jewish state or not. This is the dumb shit that Zohran Mamdani and them will say out loud, and then people will praise them. That's liberal Zionism. He's accepting the existence of the Israeli state. He's condemning the resistance at the same time. And then people are allowing themselves to be dragged to the right. Oh, yeah, we got to repeat that line. We got to say what Zohran said. Yeah, Israel has the right to exist, but not as a Jewish state. No, they have the right to get the fuck out of Palestine. That's the only right that they have. And I'm witnessing people who consider themselves communists, anti-imperialists, being dragged to the right on these issues. So once again, here's Zohran Mamdani. The Iranian government has engaged in systemic repression of its own people. Once again, play the game. Is this Neera Tanden or is this Zohran Mamdani? Is this AOC or is it Chuck Schumer? I said in the beginning of the stream I wouldn't melt down, didn't I? God damn it. Zoe's never going to let me live this down. I told you guys I wasn't going to have a meltdown, but I can't help myself. I can't help myself, man. I'm sorry. I calmed down a little bit. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, I take a breath. Dude, this shit, I get irritated talking about this because I see my friends, I see people I have respect for get this wrong. It's very frustrating. I'm not going to fight with any of these people. I will just make my argument as aggressive as possible. I have a platform, so I don't like calling people out like that, like especially people who have good intentions. So instead, people are like, Dick, why don't you call out X? I'm like, bro, instead what I'm going to do, because I'm a nice guy, nicer than a lot of people think I am, I'm just going to make my argument as aggressive as possible. So in hope that you guys get this right. And then I put pressure on you guys by making by the quality of my argument. So that's why I'm as aggressive as I am regarding these issues, because I don't appreciate the left getting these issues wrong. Yeah. I know everyone don't like it though, so I'll try to calm down. I get very fired up covering this stuff. So here, let me read a comment from Mamdani again. This is your guys' homie. And once again, I'm not in his district. What would it even mean for me to support Zohran? People are like, Nick, do you support Zohran? What does that mean? So I had a conversation with someone on X the other day. They're like, Nick, you have to support Darren Liza. I'm not in her district. What does that even mean? Am I supposed to use my platform to rah-rah them? Am I supposed to donate to them? What does it mean to support? Like the idea that you would use your platform, you got all these people who follow you, and you just rah-rah politician. I'm not interested. Like I've seen this rodeo before. I understand that a lot of Gen Z people are excited. They're the first time seeing this, but it's not my first rodeo, fam. This is not DSA's first victory. They won plenty of elections. They never asked what happens after that. That's why the DSA guy that Bree talked to, he had a meltdown. Because Bree's talking, she asked him a direct question. What happens after you win? What's the point of you winning if you win and then support Hakeem Jeffries and then homie rage quit? And that's the DSA left in a nutshell. Yeah, this is what people really believe. They're like, Nick, how can you go after Zohran? Shouldn't you support him? What does that mean? I'm not in his district. I can't vote for him. Are you implying that I should donate to him instead of Gaza funds? Because that's crazy. You got people outside of Zohran district. They all donating to them instead of Gaza funds. Isn't that crazy? I don't know, man. I'm once again, I'm just kind of a thinker. And I have a lot of thoughts over this nonsense I've been seeing. And another legitimate criticism, man, I told Zoya I was going to be quick, but man, I'm only scratching the surface of what I want to talk about today. Zoya, I'm sorry. We're going a little bit long. Do you want to pop in for a second, Zoya? Because, bro, I'm just scratching the surface, bro. Zoya, are you there? If you're not, it's not a big deal. What's popping, Zoya? I'm actually decided I might take a break. I want to make this last point, and it's good that you be here when I make this point. Because do you guys see this news? This is something else that the NATO left will never cover. That Zoran Mamdani will never tweet about. Actually, no, let me find a real article. This is a good tweet, don't get me wrong. But I saw a lot of articles about this where a German court said, hey, guys, by the way, we reached our official ruling. You guys realize that Ukraine did it, right? Ukraine was responsible for the largest environmental disaster. I think it was the greatest act of eco-terrorism in modern human history. Well, I would say it's one of the most, just to be safe, one of the worst acts of eco-terrorism in history the Zelensky regime carried out. God damn it, let me find this article. Ukraine, Nord Stream. I literally just read this. I just read it. It should pop up. Here it is. Here's the DW. Even German corporate media is talking about this, but I'm telling you, all the channels that you guys know who support Zoran Mamdani and the DSA and the NATO left, where they forced all the candidates to support NATO funding. You guys realize that that's a DNC requirement for them to be allowed in their primaries, and they all accept it. They will never cover this story about how Ukraine, they claim they're environmentalists. They talk about the Green New Deal all the time, but we talk about how NATO facilitated the largest act of environmental terrorism of all time, which plunged the German working class deeper into poverty. You guys realize the economic catastrophe this was for Germany? The destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline. We're going to get to that soon when I come back. How Friedrich Merz is getting rid of their sick leave. And then I figure after that, I will then get to the main story of the DSA clown melted down on Bad Faith podcast, because it's all connected. Because the DSA, they support Ukraine. All the politicians support Ukraine. And DSA as a party has no mechanism to stop that, which is a real legitimate criticism. But Zoya, I was getting to another rant. Zoya, are you there, my friend? Let's read some chats. I'll take a quick intermission, and then I'll come back and finish up, starting from the Germany story. And then we'll cover they had this DSA dude who had a meltdown on Bree's show, which was hilarious and revealing. So we'll get to that soon. Zoya's love, Zoya's life. How you doing, my friend?
Good as always. Happy to be here. How's everyone in the chat? I love Nick's rants and like Nick's justified rage. I think he channels that rage for a lot of us. And it honestly would be kind of sociopathic to cover all of these atrocities without having a human reaction. We should all be outraged. A lot of us are too complacent and apathetic. So let's get into your guys' chats. Mark Puglisi, thank you for the $2. Told Bree she getting too cool for her guests. Maybe. Ryan McKnight, good to see your show, Nick, from Canada. Always love seeing people from across the globe. Master Yoda, thank you for the $2. No one wants another war for Israel. Join the ACP. Joining ACP, any other orgs in your community that are community focused and doing material good on the ground. And most of all, most importantly, teaching theory so that workers know how to capture their power back from all of these ruling class interests. Comrade Cranky, thank you for the $5. I will not celebrate a country that has turned Gaza into the biggest children's graveyard on the planet. This is America. It's unbelievable. Genocide after genocide. That's the history of this country. Slavik Rusa, Dobry вечер, my friends, my family. She said, good evening, my friends, my family. John Kemper, good to see you. Love seeing all of the old school folks. Got another one in Russian. Mike Ellison, Здравствуйте, товарищ. That's hello, comrade. The Putin puppet charges are going to start sticking, guys. Love from a Polish Russian comrade exiled in Berlin. Oof, that's rough right now. MT Unit. Hey, Nick, keep calling people boomers. You'll go far. Boomers applies to the people who benefited from the system. It's not just about a generation or an age group. If you remember, it started with privileged people talking down to youth that's struggling, and a famous politician said, okay, boomer. So it's not to ever put down comrades that happen to be elderly, but a lot of revolutionaries still hang on to that and show up for us even if they're elderly. So it's never ageist. People get too easily triggered by these terms.
Yeah, facts over feelings.
Yeah.
It's a fact, bro. Like, if you're a comrade boomer, good for you. But the boomer class have been largely supportive of voting and supporting these incumbents who've been in charge for decades now. And whenever you ask the boomers in these polls, they are the ones who, I support bombing Iran. I despise socialism. I support the police. It's just a fact. Do you guys want me to ignore the just a statistical fact that boomers in the West support the establishment, capitalism, and imperialism? And if you're a boomer who resists that, I gave shout outs to boomers, left boomers all the time. So I'm not here to hold your hand and protect your feelings. These are just facts. And I'm allowed to have fun on my show sometimes. I'm not here to protect your feelings. I'm sorry.
If it doesn't apply to you, you should know that. So, John Kemper, Nick is the best. He never lets up on these creeps. That's right. We need someone with Nick's justified rage. Bryce Smith, what up, Nick? Hey, Zoya's love, Zoya's life.
She is life, my friend. So I think I can take over from here. I don't know if I even finished reading Zoran's entire statement, but I'm gonna start with the Nord Stream and Germany story because this is what Zelensky. Thank you, Zora. I'll bring you back in here soon. I want to quickly cover this because I want to get to the bad faith video. Hopefully, I can cover that quickly as well. But Germany, a country who Zoran Mamdani won't criticize, like, it'll be one thing if these people was consistent. Like, I just oppose all governments. I'm a radical anarchist. That'll be one thing, which is that's cool. You can do you, boo-boo. You're so radical. You hate all governments. But the thing is, they will only criticize the enemies of the empire. That's what annoys me. I've been calling this out for years. Like, the reason why they support the NATO agenda, they high-key love the UK. The AOC said, I want socialism just like the UK. Yeah, we want democracy like we see in Sweden and Finland. You know, the countries who funded genocides, including the genocide in Yemen. We want a country like Sweden, one of the largest arm exporters in the world. I'm a social democrat. And you notice none of these people have any criticism of what these NATO countries are actually doing. So one of the most unpopular leaders in the world, Putin, is one of the most popular, supported by nearly 75% of his people. I've seen polls that show higher. So Putin supported by his people. Xi Jinping supported by his people. Claudia Sheinbaum supported by his people. So people call me campus, but you guys see that there's a pattern where I only publicly praise and support leaders who have the support of their people. Meanwhile, Friedrich Merz has an approval rating of around 15%. He's one of the most despised leaders in the world. He came directly from BlackRock, and the first thing he did as a BlackRock prime minister, because you guys know these fascist countries in Europe, they got rid of the middleman. They used to we're gonna fundraise for a puppet. Let's create a super PAC for a puppet. Let's run ads and create a puppet to do the agenda of the capitalist class. That's how they used to do it. Now you guys see how it's the full merging of the corporate state with the goal of engaging in class warfare against the working class. This is the real reason for fascism. This is the real definition of fascism, I mean. the merging of the corporation and state on behalf of the ruling class to implement class warfare against the people. Like the Nazis who banned the right to collective bargaining rights, like we've seen from Ukraine, how they banned socialist parties. Fascist is an organized structural formation of the ruling class, and we've been seeing Europe embrace that. Meanwhile, if you was to ask Bernie Sanders about this, crickets, let's condemn Putin, let's condemn Iran, let's condemn Venezuela. But don't you know that Nicolas Maduro is he's engaging in political oppression of his enemies? What do you call a BlackRock prime minister who is cutting worker rights? Isn't that political oppression? You guys see how the people who they look up to, their intellectual heroes, are intellectual midgets as far as I'm concerned. They are full of hypocrisies. And then they look at me as if I'm some crazy, just Putin supporting Russian supporter because I oppose NATO and their governments and their agenda when they're implementing mass austerity against their people in order to sacrifice more Ukrainians to prepare for war, a forever nuclear war against Russia. What does it matter about your quote-unquote progressive domestic agenda? People are like, I got this great progressive domestic agenda. We're going to provide for the working class. How does that matter if you guys are supporting states that is plunging us into World War III? Your stupid-ass reform is not going to mean anything in the face of a nuclear war. I don't even have to go that far. Like the upcoming global warfare that's going to start between Russia versus NATO, Iran versus the West, China versus the West on Taiwan, which they also support defending Taiwan. That's what Kat says. They all support defending Taiwan. So they advocate for a progressive agenda at home, which will not be seen. We will never get the fruits of the benefit of this agenda because we will be plunged into war that will plunge people in Europe, the European working class, like they already have been suffering because of this war that Bernie Sanders and the NATO left support. Because Europe technically supported Ukraine bombing Nord Stream, that's why they got cut pensions. They follow in the Donald Trump playbook and let's cut social spending and let's implement austerity. Let's bring our military back. So Germany is remilitarizing. Their ally in Japan is remilitarizing. But you guys see how none of this stuff does not fit in the analysis of the DSA left at all. So I'm sorry if I'm deeply unimpressed with you in your movement in the DSA when this has nothing to do with your worldview. Like, how do we oppose the massive militarization of the ruling class because they plan to go to war with Russia? We gotta support Ukraine's right to defend itself against Russian imperial. That's what Matt Dustin would say. That's what AOC would say because Matt Dustin is her foreign policy advisor. So I'm sorry if I want the left to be better than the slop we are fed. These issues are not that hard to get right. You just got to dig a little deeper. So let me quickly read this headline and we get to the bad faith story. I think this is in German.
2027
I'll just read the summary. It said, we can no longer accept the high levels of sick leave in our country, in our companies. We are abolishing sick leave by telephone and introducing the requirement to submit a medical certificate from the very first day of illness. So Germany is slashing pensions. Let's see if I find the receipt. I tweet about that. Germany is slashing pensions. Now they losing the right to pay maternity sick leave. Like here's the German working class being bled dry by NATO. So because I don't want to see the German class bled out to fight the NATO forever war against Russia, following the Trump agenda of expanding NATO, they would say, well, Nick, you're just a Russian puppet. I'm a Russian puppet because I don't want to see the German working class lose their working rights? Is that the argument that you're making to me right now? These are the NATO. You guys see, I debate these people on X all the time. They have no explanation for this. Your politics is facilitating the depopulation of Ukraine, and you are facilitating the militarization of the West. And what do you think is going to happen once Democrats take charge again? Which they will. because MAGA predictably failed the working class. You're going to see them continue to vote to these aid to Ukraine. So I know you guys having fun. Now you're in your honeymoon phase with all these new progressives. They're your new shiny toy. But wait till a Democrat take charge. Wait till they take Congress again. And wait till when they start voting for these Ukraine aid packages again. And then people will be like, I can't believe I ever supported her. I'm telling you guys, it's only a matter of time. People don't like my opinions because it's only a matter of time before we are vindicated. Only a matter of time. I will stand on the hill alone, and we will be vindicated here soon. Let's show some. I didn't feel like playing that video because I think it's mostly in German. Not mostly, it is in German. I'm going to show you guys how the corporate media is covering this. You guys see how to search sick leave. Here, look, German workers banned from taking sick leave. Take that, Putin. Putin is so owned right now. We are stripping ourselves of our worker rights. And then if you will poll the German people, they believe that Vladimir Putin and Russia is their number one enemy. You think Russia is your enemy as your criminal Nazi ruling class is rolling back your worker rights. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I will always have solidarity with the working class. I will always want to lead them to the right direction, but it's kind of hard not to laugh because it's what you guys allow to happen. Because if you look at the polls, like when you look at Germans and the UK and how the Europeans feel about Russia, bro, Russia is despised by a lot of Europeans. Their propaganda work. So instead of hating their ruling class, realizing that Putin is not their enemy, they deindustrialized themselves. They supported politicians that did not have their best interests at heart just because they were told by the media to hate Russia. The same way how progressives are supporting these genocidal monsters. Putin, Bernie legitimately think that people like Joe Biden is better than Putin. Yeah. I've been asking this question for years now. I won't say it out loud. This is what I've been saying about the progressive left for years, and they say, you're just being deflammatory. Nick is always looking for drama because I want to hold people intellectually accountable. Because I don't play follow the leader. I don't put my hand up in the air and see which way the wind is blowing. So I've been asking this question for a long time, man. This is why I tell myself, this is the cope I tell myself. It's only a matter of time, man. I hope so. I hope so, man. All right, I think there's so much more I wanted to cover, but I need to get to the brief show. I'm cutting it really close here because the reason I'm doing the early show is because I have plans. I'm actually cutting this very close. But yeah, let's dive directly to the brief story then. I already said it. I think I said enough on that segment. So here it is. I'm trying to debate exactly where I should start with this. I think this is a pretty good part here because I want to show you guys, and I'm not going to interrupt the base video too much. I'm going to add my critiques because Breonna Joy Gray. Actually, let me get still.
Candidate.
I don't want to bad looking still for our sister Bree here. So we'll start here. I don't actually have to chime in that much because Bree did fantastic exposing this intellectually weak DSA guy who was pretending that the DSA had this massive amount of success, and he condemned and he disapproves of organizing within third parties. And Bree essentially dresses him down. And the core argument that she was making was, if you guys are so fantastic at winning these elections, if you guys are so fantastic at organizing like you claim you are, why won't you organize with people like Shama Sawan? Why wouldn't you organize to help get a vote for Medicare for all instead of supporting Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries if you guys are so good at organizing? Because this is what a true victory will look like. A lot of people in DSA, they make the mistake, and a lot of lazy Western leftists, they think winning the election is the victory. Winning the election is when things start. Like you achieving your career aspiration doesn't mean anything if you take office and then vote to break a rail strike. If you win the election and you vote to send billions of dollars to Nazis in Ukraine, why does it matter if you win if you then turn around and support the establishment instead of outside independent third party movements? If you're so good at winning, help us win. And Baby Brain, who she argues against, doesn't even understand the core of Bree's argument. And he ended up rage quitting because the professional managerial class dumb, they can write a good book about history. He's going to bring that up. He's like, don't you know, I wrote good books before. I wrote good articles before, Bree. They think their knowledge of history excludes and ignores their fundamental misunderstanding of strategy. So that's just my early breakdown of this. I'm going to come back after I let it play because Bree does a fantastic job. I may chime in whenever he says something stupid, but this was a fantastic breakdown. And this guy sums up the intellectually frail DSA argument in a nutshell. This is why Hassan Piker would never have me on. This is why the people who support the DSA project, they avoid me like the plague. Because it's very hard for them to reconcile the legitimacy of their strategy of entryism that has failed over and over and over again. And also, AOC and her folding on many issues is an example of them failing. So that's just my quick summary of what I've seen. I watched the entire discussion, but obviously we don't have time to show the whole thing. I implore you guys to watch the whole thing. We're going to play the part where he makes the argument against a third party, and then we're going to show his meltdown once Brianna Joy Gray utterly destroys his lazy argument. So here's Bree making her argument for a third party. I cut it off a little bit, but she nails it, and then he gets into DSA utter shit lib nonsense as far as I'm concerned. I was shaking my head so hard watching this, but let's dive right into it.
Cinema, where they all pretended that this thing had to be stripped out of the must-pass COVID relief bill by the parliamentarian so the Democrats could have, quote unquote, clean hands about not passing one of the most popular and basic and fundamental social safety net interventions that we have in this country. That's all to say, why not both? And why do we not have an expectation that these elected to now have this incredible platform not use that platform to advocate for not only third-party candidates, Green Party candidates, PSL candidates, et cetera. For example, Andre Easton, who will be on the ballot in New York running against one of the... Now,
this is a very important point that Bree makes that he cannot answer for and no one in the DSA left can answer for. Let's get back to the hypothetical question about, Nick, what does it mean for me to support Zoran? When people say, Nick, why don't you support Zoran? For one, I live in Kansas City. What does that even mean to support Zoran? Am I supposed to donate to him? Am I supposed to organize for him? So what you guys do is only organize on behalf of Democrats. But then whenever whenever we hold a mutual aid event, like we had a mutual aid event at with the Fred Hampton family. The DSA would know where to be found there. They know where to be found when Rome does his giveaways. They're nowhere to be found when Shama Sawant is waging an election campaign against Adam Smith, a genocidal Zionist who called people who attend pro-Palestine protests, he called them fascists. Adam Smith is the guy who co-sponsored a bill with the Republicans in order to merge the Israeli military with the United States military. But the response of the DSA left is they want to sit out that election because Shama Sawant had criticism of DSA only organizing within the Democratic Party. So they were so stupid, they don't realize by sitting out the race of taking on a genocidal Zionist because Shama Sawant hurt your feelings, proved her criticism of you right in the first place. So when people say, Nick, why don't you support Zoran and the DSA? My question is, why don't they support us? They didn't support Force to Vote. They don't support our anti-war movements. They didn't support our anti-war protests. So why should we jump whenever they ask us to jump? But then whenever we ask for basic solidarity, they're nowhere to be found. You know, Chairman O'Malley, who we fought hard to help spread awareness, to help him get released from the fascist Biden administration when they were trying to charge the Uhuru socialist movement. You know, Hassan Piker never tweeted about that story. You guys know the majority report. None of the DSA people touched that story. You want to know why? Because it was the Democratic Party that was going after Chairman Amali. So then the DSA people were like, well, we actually organizing. Where are you guys organizing? I was organizing to help free Chairman Amali. You would know where to be found. We was helping fundraise for the Hampton family, and you guys would know where to be found. So the fundamental criticism that Bree brings to him and the criticism I consistently bring to DSA, if you were serious about the idea that, hey, yeah, we need to run within the Democratic Party, and then we also got to run outside the party. Why don't you guys ever show up when there's any organization for any outside party movements? In fact, AOC and Hassan Piker, they would then run smear jobs against Jill Stein. You know, the same Jill Stein who was arrested, who was brutally arrested protesting genocide. AOC said she's predatory. Then Hassan Piker did a video saying she's predatory. Then Sam Cedar from the Majority Report did a video saying she's predatory. So you guys see another problem with the DSA strategy. They are loyal and would defend the two-party duopoly against any third-party movement. They would pretend to be neutral towards a third party while acting hostile towards them. Look at all the people who hate on ACP. Look at the DSA people who hate Shama Sawant. Look at all the people who hate on RBN. Because we had the audacity of wanting to form an anti-Zionist movement, a socialist movement outside the Democratic Party. So whenever they give you to feed you this nonsense about how, oh, well, we are not just Democrats, we would love to facilitate a revolution, that is bullshit. And that is what Bree is bringing up. And I'm sorry I went a little bit long with that rant there, but I'm summing up. This is the fantastic argument that Bree has been making to this thick-headed idiot, and he never had any answer for it. He pretended he didn't understand it. You know, why we keep talking about this? Because you didn't provide an answer to her primary criticism. So I'm sorry, I will shut up and I let it play because I think I analyzed this a lot already. I let it play.
Zionist, most American military, quote, clean hands about not passing one of the most popular and basic and fundamental social safety net interventions that we have in this country. That's all to say, why not both? And why do we not have an expectation that these elected to now have this incredible platform not use that platform to advocate for not only third-party candidates, Green Party candidates, PSL candidates, et cetera. For example, Andre Easton, who will be on the ballot in New York running against one of the biggest Zionists, most vocal Zionists in Congress, and Richie Torres. And why, for example, there's not more advocacy for someone like Shama Sawant, who is running against Adam Smith in Washington State, who similarly is one of the most vocal Zionists in Congress. It does start to feel like there's a team sport that has more to do with supporting a Democratic Party that is antagonistic to them more than supporting these values that are shared more broadly by candidates, including those that are running outside of the party system.
I mean, to be a little pointed in my reply, I think that the Democratic establishment, for example, in the state of Rhode Island, would be surprised to hear me described as a defender of the Democratic Party. They typically think of me as like a terrorist, but I think that it is important to do both. But I really encourage people to study what it is that makes the American party system so peculiar, because my critique of, you know, forming a Green Party, forming a Labor Party, which a lot of people tried to do in the 1990s, trying to form third parties is that.
You know, the thing that historically worked for revolution and working class movements all over the world? You guys see how these DSA losers operate on a completely ahistorical premise that building your own parties doesn't work, but entryism does? Hey, dipshit, there's a state to our south that has a president that reduced poverty, implemented jobs program, expanded national health care. Her name is Claudia Sheinbaum. And they started by leaving a neoliberal party and forming their own. That's the country right next to us. How are you pretending that our strategy doesn't work when we have real world example after real world example of this actually working? Meanwhile, you guys have crickets. You guys have Bernie Sanders explaining how we live in the oligarchy for 30 years. And this is also the smug arrogance that the professional managerial class left have, where they pretend they accomplish shit. Why are you pretending you guys accomplish shit? You haven't stopped the genocide in Gaza. You haven't provided your people health care. You haven't provided your people paid maternity leave. We haven't a single federal minimum wage increase. So you guys see how his premise that third parties doesn't work, thus my strategy does work? Citation needed. When you talk about how your strategy worked by putting down third parties and pretending that they don't work, you're implying that you actually achieved something for the working class. So you guys see how these people are content? This is the contentness with DSA that irritates me. We're witnessing the West Bank being sieged right now. Why are you guys so proud of yourself? You didn't stop the Middle East from being destroyed. You didn't stop your party from sanctioning 1/3 of the world population. What is this smug sense of accomplishment that you guys have? Because you won elections? And this is the point they won't answer. What's the point of winning these elections if you have no mechanism to hold these people accountable? Like, supporting Ukraine and Nazis in Ukraine, voting against rail strikes, cracking down on pro-Palestinian protests like Zohran Mamdani, and then DSA had to put out a statement. Yeah, technically we condemn. they always put out these statements. We condemn Zohran Mamdani for cracking down on pro-Palestine protests. Yeah, oh yeah, we condemn AOC for supporting the Iron Dome. No mechanism, no litmus test for who joined your party so they can be easily hijacked by Zionists. Like Brad Lander. Remember when Brad Lander called DSA an anti-Semitic after October 7th? And then Brad Lander wins an election and DSA cheers for him. I'll let it continue. But his argument is easily dismantleable. These people are intellectual midgets. And the fact that he's an intellectual midget who never actually gave any real thought about strategy, you guys see how he folds? Well, you're going to see if you haven't seen the video already. He's going to fold, melt down, and rage quit when Bree brings up a fraction of the arguments that I'm making right now. Bree does a fantastic job. I'll let it continue. I just had to say something to his very lazy, ahistorical third-party critique that they bring up all the time. But I'll let it play a little bit more, some more, and I'll chime in after a bit.
Forming a Green Party, forming a Labor Party, which a lot of people tried to do in the 1990s. Trying to form third parties is that one is not actually forming a political party as it would exist in any other country, i.e. an organization that's autonomous from the state and can be governed according to its own rules, with its own members electing its own leadership. You cannot have a political party like that in the United States. When you're running a third party, what you're doing is fighting to establish and maintain a ballot line. In terms of a party, we do need a Labor Party. We do need a Socialist Party. And I would argue that NYC DSA is by far the most advanced along in that process. They're using the Democratic Party ballot line, but they exercise more organizational power.
The organizational power that they use to protect Hakeem Jeffries. Remember how DSA voted to protect Hakeem Jeffries? That power? So I'm sorry to interrupt again, but you guys see how he made the argument how the DSA is a valid party because when you build a party, you have to create rules and a structure. That is not what DSA have. They have no rules for members. You know what they call Zionists and the DSA? They call it the DSA right. Have you ever listened to how DSA people talk? They're like, y'all part DSA left, then they're DSA right. The fuck you mean they're DSA right? Purge their ass. What are you talking about? They know, no, we can't purge our right-wing members. That would be authoritarianism. So what he says when he says DSA is actually forming a party structure is nonsense. They're Democrats who has a big party tent mentality, just like Democrats. But I'll let it continue because I really don't need to chime in that much because Bree actually does cook him. I just had to add my commentary that this is incredible.
To establish and maintain a ballot line. In terms of a party, we do need a Labor Party. We do need a Socialist Party. And I would argue that NYC DSA is by far the most advanced along in that process. They're using the Democratic Party ballot line, but they exercise more organizational power, more discipline over their organizational practices and elected officials at the city and state and now federal level than any political party in this country.
So but that's confusing then. So two things are happening that I hear you saying right there. One, I hear you saying, well, we can't operate party systems as they operate in other countries. That's fine. I don't know. It may or may not be, it likely is more advantageous to do it the ways that other countries do, but that's not the standard for the Democrats, with which all of these candidates are running to be. And by your own description just now, the DSA, you're saying, is sort of creating a facsimile of that by using the ballot line.
I think that they're not. I think NYC DSA is acting more like a political party than any other organization in this country, including the Democratic Party.
So you have the the NYC DSA behaving in that way. The question is, why is it so unthinkable that similar organizing can be done completely outside of the Democratic Party, and or while someone like the NYC DSA put their efforts behind people like Andre Easton, who I believe is in the DSA as well, individually. Or no, he's PSL, I think, actually. But people who are ideologically aligned but outside of the Democratic Party. Yeah.
I mean, I think the question should be why aren't any of these other socialist organizations able to win very much?
Well, what do you think?
These smug, annoying, condescending, useless DCA scumbags. Instead of mocking the idea of them not winning, the argument that Bree is making, dumbass, is why aren't you guys helping other anti-capitalist socialist movements instead of just playing defense for the Democratic Party? That's the core premise. So if you have criticism for other parties not winning, they don't win because you don't support them. The same reason why you guys get hypothetically angry at me, because you guys are afraid that if RBN doesn't support your progressive Democrat, the progressive Democrat will lose. This is why we are often hostile to you guys. The hostility comes from the fact that you refuse to support any third party except the third party that is running within the capitalist structure. That's why it's kind of sus. Why aren't you supporting Shama? Why wouldn't you support Butch Ware? You guys know how Hassan Piker refused to have Butch Ware on the show? All the DSA channels refused to have Butch Ware on because he wasn't running as a Democrat. So this is the fundamental point that this dumb asshole doesn't even understand. And Bree had to talk to him like he's a toddler. I love our conversation I had with Bree, because me and Bree, we would have these high level theoretical conversations about the future of the left and how we can organize. We'll talk about history. You guys see many of the conversations that me and Bree have. She's extremely smart. And when you have a conversation with Bree, bro, you got to make sure you keep up. You got to see my conversation. I had to make sure I'm locked in. I don't read the chat whenever I have Bree on. I'd be locked in, and we have a high-level geopolitical left conversation for an hour. Meanwhile, whenever Bree talks to the DSA people, you got to see how she got to talk to him like he's a toddler. You got to walk him through the conversation. Oh, don't get angry. You know how toddlers, they throw a temper tantrum. He start throwing a temper tantrum like a toddler. No, I'm just asking you to justify your position. No, I don't want you to get mad. All these professional managerial class people are fucking children. You know how Marianne Williamson had a meltdown because I pushed her over the two-state solution and liberal Zionism, and then she rage quit? Then you're going to see the same thing coming from him. Because they're not comfortable discussing strategy. They fundamentally do not believe that's something worthy of debate. But I'll let it continue.
CDSA, because NYC DSA has been incredibly effective, and they have a strategy that wins. I think the results sort of speak for themselves. So I think it's kind of.
Well, but Dan, let's not be ahistorical about this. But let's wait. Let me be clear about this. We're being ahistorical about this. AOC gets characterized. AOC started all of this. AOC's run was not expected.
Sorry. Are we? Is this like? I mean, and you can run this if you want, if you wanted, but if we're gonna just rehash the debate that you've been having with the DSA lefts for 6 years, why? I've had a very busy day. Why'd you have me on?
Look,
back and forth like you.
so you guys see the meltdown he starts to have because he's very uncomfortable discussing strategy. Yeah, I just went out for a second. My screen froze. But you guys see how he started having a complete meltdown like a child who can't defend his positions. And what Bree is going through right here, live on camera, this is what I go through all the time when you discuss policies, when you discuss strategy with the children. These people are used to being the farthest left people in the room. Remember what he said earlier? He's like, I'm used to Democrats calling me a terrorist. Hassan Piker and these lazy morons like Sam Cedar, they love the debating liberals and conservatives when they can feel like they're the smartest person in the room. But whenever they have to defend their politics for someone on the left, what this guy is demonstrating to Bree, black leftists and people to the left in general, we go through this all the time where they start questioning your attention. Why are we talking about this? This is not even legitimate. What do you mean? Strategy is one of the most legitimate things that you can talk about in politics. A lot of the rest of it is kind of mental masturbation. The rest of it is just you trying to flex your credentials. You got to see he's going to try to do that to try to get out of the conversation. He doesn't try to start flexing his credentials. And don't you know I wrote about this? I wrote a book about this. Can we talk about the things I studied in history? No, motherfucker, explain your strategy. Let's continue. I'm back. I just got cut out for a second. I'll go back to when the conversation starts to melt down again. Hopefully I don't go back too far. What was I exactly? Let's start here.
Their efforts behind people like Andre Easton, who I believe is in the DSA as well, individually. Or no, he's PSL, I think, actually. But people who are ideologically aligned but outside of the Democratic Party. Yeah.
I mean, I
PSL
think the question should be why aren't any of these other socialist organizations able to like win very much?
Well, what do you think the answer to that is?
Because NYC DSA has been incredibly effective and they have a strategy that wins. I think the results sort of speak for themselves. So I think it's kind of.
Well, but Dan, let's not be ahistorical about this. But let's wait. Let me be clear about this. We're being ahistorical about this. AOC gets characterized. AOC started all of this. AOC's run was not expected.
Sorry. Are we? Is this like? I mean, and you can run this if you want, if you wanted, but like. If we're going to just like rehash the debate that you've been having with like the DSA lefts for 6 years, why? I've had a very busy day. Why'd you have me on?
Well, to what? Wait a minute, Dan. How do you characterize the debate that I've been having?
What a weak ass bitch. You see how Bree has to maintain her composure in front of this weak ass bitch who can't even defend his opinions? She invited your bitch ass on the show. Now answer the questions. Can you imagine the reaction if I'd behave like this? Like if I was, remember when I was being grilled by Robbie on the Hill? When I was Jimmy? Like it's always these professional managerial suburbanites who believe they're better than us. Like we're wasting your time, sir. We were asking you to defend your positions, and this aggression, this smug attitude is what I faced my entire time in this space. But I'll let it continue. Because his meltdown says everything. Because Bree, especially if you watch the whole conversation, she couldn't have been nicer. Bro, she could not have held this man's hands. She was talking to him like a toddler, and she's going to continue to talk to him like a toddler, because like a toddler, he's having a meltdown because he realized in front of thousands of people, tens of thousands of people, Bree has a pretty massive audience. He realized he's been exposed as Bree, as someone who gave no real thought about his politics. Yeah, you're good at writing a history book, like he's gonna explain. But do you actually have a coherent political answer to the oppression that we're facing, other than just running as a Democrat? Then he has a meltdown because he's not able to back up the counter argument that Bree was making. He used to bullshitting journalists who will allow this nonsense to go by, but you see how he's a child and he melts down because he has no answers. They never have any answers. This is why they don't debate me. They don't have me on. They just blacklist me. They say, oh, he's just a Putin puppet record. They just get upset at you because they don't have no answer, because their politics, like Bree said, completely ahistoric in terms of working.
DSA left for 6 years.
This is, if you want to have me on, like I answered your question, but you're just like, now we've been like 20 minutes having the same back and forth. Like you said your piece, I've said my piece. Like it's not like I'm not like a TV talking head. I just finished the 6 part of a 7-part 16-hour series on
So
the history of
important, bro.
Indonesia, stretching from the dawn of Portuguese colonialism in the 16th century. I just finished my introduction on the mass anti-communist genocide of 1965, when between 500,000 and 3 million people were murdered by a US-backed dictator. And I came on because you asked.
Because she wants to know why you guys are supporting institutions that are responsible for these crimes that you guys apparently oppose. Like, isn't it reasonable for us to be like, hey, man, you guys say you're against genocide, but why do you guys support voting for Kamala Harris like Zoran Mamdani did? Why does AOC endorse genocide? Yeah, you can write books about this shit all you want. The difference between us and people like you, the reason why you're uncomfortable with people on the left is we will demand a coherent answer to these problems that you make money writing about. And you guys see, when they were praying, they didn't have a long conversation. Fam, that conversation was only like 15 minutes. They were discussing a lot of stuff before then. Like, they talking about how the DSA victories. They talk about AOC in Gaza. Like, this debate doesn't really happen until, like, it was only like a 15-minute conversation. And this motherfucker mentally exhausted. We have 2-3 hour live streams where we have complex conversation about discussing. Well, don't you know, I'm a writer, man. I don't like talking. I don't like defending myself. I'm used to people just eating up whatever I say. I'm not used to counter arguments. All right, let's wrap this up. Like, I think everything else from this video was self-explaining itself. Let's really wrap the segment up, man. I covered this longer than I thought, but I have to make the correct third-party argument because we need to start building something. I think Bree's gonna be at the Green Party Summit later this month. We see, but enough of these entries of nonsense. I'll let the video continue because he just continues to make an ass of himself.
Me, and I was like, sure, but this is not what I was like hoping for. One question when we go back and forth and disagree, but this is like just like not a good use of my time, and it feels like a little tangentious. And
well,
you can
that, Dan. I did ask. I specifically want to know why you think the DSA has been.
But we've been talking about this for 20 minutes, and you had a long list of things you wanted to talk to me about.
Well, right, but this is chief among them because damn, very few people are as engaged with this issue. I feel like I've learned a lot from your interviews with people who've done the organizing on the ground. I don't have any pushback about the efficacy of DSA. My question is how broadly applicable those strategies are. What is sort of unique about New York and the phenomenon that, as I was about to describe, started with AOC's run, which was not a DSA fueled and enabled run, the way that is so frequently characterized. Because from my perspective, there is a little bit of a willingness sort of to get behind winners that is almost more predictive of success, like people who are perceived to be able to win, than
Zoran was pulling
a lot
at
of
1%.
other things.
Zoran was pulling at 1% when they started, and they have a political strategy that's very effective, and so they brought him from 1% to victory.
And when Zoran was polling at 1%, not a lot of people were trying to talk to him. I was, because I have all the candidates on, because I don't wait around to see if someone's going to suddenly unexpectedly spike in the polls to talk to them if I agree with their political agenda. But my point is that
Let's see how I'll be quick, but you guys see how she completely nails him there. I thought you guys said you support all third parties. I thought you wanted to support outside movies. You guys see, they are very selective. They don't want to support Sharma Sawan because they're afraid if they don't win. So if you're so confident that you are able to uplift candidates to victory like Zoran Mamdani at 1%, why won't you help any other socialist candidate if you was actually serious about building an outside movement? Because that's exactly what Bree said she does. But I'll let it finish.
I think that what Zoran had to set him apart and that really enabled him to win was ranked choice voting, for one. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the candidates are running against Andrew Cuomo, who is uniquely villainous. And there was a sort of a stop Cuomo consensus that enabled Zoran's name to get out there.
And I'm now suspecting that you're going to like play all of this online, even though I'm having a meta conversation with you, which I wouldn't do for a guest on my show, which I would not do for a guest on my show.
But Dan, you just said you can play this if you want, and I never said we were going to stop. I don't edit my podcast like that.
Then that's fine. But I'm just telling you that, like, You asked me a question, I answered it. You debated me back, I debated you back, and now we're just like going over the same thing over and over. And my brain's just kind of like melting, my eyes are
What is
glazing
it?
over. It's just
Help me
unpleasant.
understand. Well, help me understand, Dan. I'm genuinely surprised by this. What about this is so unpleasant? I thought we were just having a conversation about what seems to me to be a really fundamental issue about the direction of the left going forward. Because let me state where I'm coming from.
Okay.
I'm concerned that just like, maybe this is also something I'm not supposed to bring up, but I'm concerned that the same way that the left establishment pretended that force the vote was not a viable strategy. And then we saw Republicans, we saw Republicans effectively do it 2 years later and oust their. Did he just hang up on me?
Poor Bree. Bro, the second that she said force the vote, he was out of there. What a weak bitch. What a mental midget. So you know why he ran when she mentioned force the vote? That's an example of you guys doing nothing once you take power. You guys already mentioned how you guys don't vote as a bloc. That's a big problem with DSA. And the second that she mentioned, he's like, oh, fuck, I'm out of here. What a fucking bitch. Poor Bree. You guys see what I'm talking about, bro. Could not have been nicer to this guy, man. Could not. You guys say I'm not as nice, but she could not have been nicer to this man. And he still has an utter meltdown just for Bree is asking him to defend his positions. Hey, what about force to vote? Oh, I gotta get out of here. Look, Bree is utterly confused. I get it. She's like, bro, what?
That's incredible. I really didn't expect that at all.
I did.
So that was very unexpected. I've been wanting to have Dan on for a long time. Everything that I said about how much I value his work and his podcast is authentic and true. What I was about to just say when he hung up is that my concern is that just like force the vote was characterized by people and what I would describe as the establishment left as impossible.
Another reason why Bree is shocked, rightfully so, is because she couldn't have been nicer to him. Just like with Rokan, all the people I couldn't have been nicer to. I questioned Marianne Wilson on Tuesday Solution, and then she accused me of mansplaining. This was essentially his version of accusing Bree of mansplaining to him. You know, if he was a chick, he definitely would have said that.
What I was about to just say when he hung up is that my concern is that just like force the vote was characterized by people and what I would describe as the establishment left as impossible, that we would end up with a Republican Speaker of the House when that is not how the voting works. I mean, I don't have to go over this with you guys. You guys know what the score was with this. That the Republicans ended up doing it 2 years later, right? And it really raised questions about what the purpose of a squad was. Dan was making the case that our system works different than parliamentary systems, which is true, but that doesn't preclude elected progressives from voting in a block and needing their votes to be solicited in a similar way.
You guys see how Bree is explaining the point that she was making to this idiot? And either he didn't understand, and this is also very likely he pretended he didn't understand. Because Bree was talking to him like a child the entire time. And they just refused to acknowledge your arguments. And the reason why I'm covering this, you guys know I don't cover a lot of like YouTube stuff as much as I like, but this was worth covering because when I saw this conversation, it was like deja vu. This happens every single time I talk to one of these DSA shit libs. People see my arguments against Mamdani and the DSA strategy. I got a video that literally said that I opposed the DSA strategy. You guys notice how they don't want to invite and have conversations with me about that? The same reason why they never debate Haas or the ACP about why they never have this conversation about why you're running within the party because they know they are fundamentally unserious. So Bree at the end does a great breakdown about why he was being ridiculous. But boy, it was very satisfying to see her audience eat this boy alive because that's exactly what happened. Because if you look at the comments, bro, this boy got ate alive. He embarrassed the entire DSA. And now you got to see why they don't have the kind of conversation. Yeah, she's just so much smarter than him. He can't keep up. Dude had a liberal meltdown. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. He was acting like a toddler. The way he started lowering his voice, talking about how tired he was from studying Indonesian genocide, like it was a badge of honor. A shield was dark. What the fuck? You guys see how he used that as a misdirection so he wouldn't have to talk about how he had an incoherent strategy? This dude came on and did not want to debate. Yeah, excuse me, I'm a white man who talks about colonialism in Indonesia. How dare you question me? This is a winning comment right here. Yeah, do you know I'm a white boy? I study genocide. My word is law. Don't question me. Ask me about my book. I'm going to plug my merch. I'm going to plug my book deal that I got. Subscribe to my Substack. I don't want to debate nothing. Compare it to me, guys. I be begging these people for a debate. They don't want it. I had to beg these people. People like, man, Nick is just a clout chaser, man. He just want to debate everybody. The comparison between people who are intellectually confident, who have integrity. That's why Bree have these debates all the time. They think she's gonna be nice. Oh, she's gonna be nice. No, bro, she's a lawyer, bro. She's gonna fucking question the shit out of you. Yeah, Bree just destroys another dim op with basic questions. Just basic questions. Couldn't hold his hand any softer as she tried. What's she doing? Why is she asking him so many questions? She acting like this is some kind of interview. Bro, these comments are sending me. Dude, these comments are fucking gold. And he got completely exposed. And DSA on Twitter, after this show was released, has been having a full-blown meltdown over Brianna Joy Gray. You guys know Brianna Joy Gray, she's in trouble again. She's in trouble again for questioning the cult of the Bernie Media Industrial Complex. Here's Ryan Grimm. We running out of time, so I'll show you guys Ryan Grimm. But bro, the DSA meltdown in response to this interview, masterfully done, Bree. What a good job. Because bro, remember how Ryan Grimm wrote a book about AOC? Political Revolution, the Hope for the Future. The dude writing books about how AOC is going to create a revolution. So this is his response to their strategy being destroyed. He's upset with Bree for conducting an interview. He begged to move on after 40 minutes, and instead Bree brought up forced to vote. And how dare you? How dare she? And he bailed. Then Ryan Grimm, he does a promotion for Polymarket. Come on, man. Am I being too much here? Or is that like just a plug for Polymarket, showing his class loyalty? Why are you promoting Polymarket, man? Don't you know there's a Zionist operation? He said, will Polymarket let me bet? Did they pay for that, Ryan? Did they pay for that tweet and that mention? Because it's kind of weird for a leftist to be quoting Polymarket and giving it attention like that. That's what I was thinking. Anyway, will Polymarket let me bet on how long people will be talking about forced to vote? See, you guys see how fast they want to move on? Hey, Ryan, one of the reasons why that is very legitimate and valid to bring up, because you have every single one of those progressives that you guys just cheered at for, they just said they're going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries. AOC, you just called her out for saying she's going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries. So don't you guys see how forced to vote when they decided not to talk about healthcare in the middle of a pandemic? It was an indication that they're here to serve as a power projecting platform for the Democratic Party? Doesn't that show how they don't want to organize with us, but they will use their credibility to launder the reputation of genocidal monsters like Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi? That's very relevant to your strategy. Forced to vote was a very revealing moment that showed that you guys had no mechanisms within DSA or the progressive left to hold the people you elect accountable. And they still, right in front of your face, telling you that they're going to support Hakeem Jeffries. And you wondering why people keep bringing up forced to vote? Intellectually, deeply unserious. So he got 1,000 likes. He got a lot of people yelling at him too. 159. Like, are you seriously defending this guy? Yeah, so you guys know my timeline is biased. These are my homies. Ryan is still triggered when he get reminders at the time he was really wrong. Yep. This is a great graphic. Keep proving us right, you smugnerant douche canoe. So yeah, I think I can end it here. I don't have a lot of time to show you guys all the meltdowns, but Ryan Grimm is just one of them. They're all the DSA accounts are furious with Bree because she had the audacity to have this conversation with him. So let's wrap it there. Let's get Zoya in here. I can't believe I almost covered that I think it was like a 45-minute segment. But there was a lot to break down. This graphic is just a short summary of all the ways that the DSA left failed us. These are basic criticisms that they will never be able to answer. That they bring on the right here. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but on the right, they say the pattern is clear. They make promises when they have no power. That's why they sound great. Fam, you guys are like, man, Zoran Mamdani and them killing it. Yes, because Donald Trump is president. This is not my first rodeo. They sounded good during the first Trump administration. But what do when a Democrat take power? When Joe Biden take power, they will endorse genocide. That's the problem. And whenever you bring this up, they have no answer for it. Zoran Mamdani, by the way, voted for genocide. Voted for Kamala Harris because he wanted to be mayor one day. So the pattern is clear. They make promises when they have no power. When they do have leverage, they refuse to use it, like force to vote, which is why force to vote is still relevant. They protect the Democratic Party leaders, not their base. They're protecting Hakeem Jeffries. They manage capitalism. They serve the establishment. Absolutely. But yeah, I got to end this at some time. You got to know, me and Zoe, we can critique social democracy all day. You got to see, this is nearly a 1 hour segment of me just critiquing their strategy, a brief picking apart the strategy. But that motherfucker, he had a 20-minute conversation, had a mental meltdown. They can't do it. They have no legitimate arguments. They're just engaging in the tranquilizing drug of electoralism. And at RBN, I promise you guys, we will lead you down that dead-end path of entryism. Zoya, I know you. I don't want to hear it. Zoya about to give me a lot of shit. I said 2 hours max. I said 2 hours. Yeah, so I'm glad you're able to join us today. I called Zoya Zoya, you down for some overtime? Zoya's always here for me. I appreciate you, my friend. Let's wrap this up. I'll be here in the background. I do gotta get ready, but I'll still be here. I'll be here as long as I can.
Nick is daring to have a personal life.
Yeah.
Let's get into your chats, guys. That was really triggering. The chats blew up, so I have like 90 chats to get through. We'll be moving along quickly.
Yeah, Zoe, you can take your time. You can close however you like. I know I actually gotta get ready because I'm already a little bit late. I'm getting firecrackers with my sister and her kids. So I always try to hang out with my family when I can. I'm just doing that as I don't really give a fuck about 4th of July, but it's a good time to hang out with family. You know what I mean? Everyone's at work. I'm going to visit to get firecrackers with them. Fireworks. I said firecrackers. Fireworks, that kind of stuff. So that's why I got to go a little bit early, but I'll be here as long as I can. Zoya about to be in the lab cooking, though. We can always rely on her.
Let's get into it. V. Olafsdottir. Hello, Nick and chat. Good to see you. Mark Puglisi, thank you for the $2. I am as angry as you. That's why I'm watching. That's right. Leroy, tap the like for a real one. Good day, comrades. Thanks so much, Leroy. Casey McCoy, make that hoodie, Nick. Justice for Palestine. I'll definitely get a few. I'll pass that on to the graphic designer. David, you can condemn the Ayatollah religious extremism, but also defend Iran's absolute right to self-determination. Who the fuck are we to be condemning any other country, how it's run? Do you understand the historical context, the background? Iran actually elected a socialist government. It is Britain and the West that sabotaged that socialist government and replaced them with oh my God, I'm blinking on his name. But a monarchy that would serve corporate interests. So We absolutely have to have correct analysis here and get off our Western exceptionalist high horses and stop telling other people how to live. Not to mention that most of what you believe in is based on what diaspora says. And diaspora, even Russian diaspora, Cuban diaspora lies about their countries of origin. They have to lie in order to get refugee status and get into America. So they lie, they repeat CIA, NGO talking points, and they don't describe the reality of the situation on the ground. So I just want to.
Zoe, I'm so glad you said that. I was literally on the phone. I was about to call, but I'm so glad you're here. This is why I appreciate Zoya. Amazing points there. I don't have to say anything. Well said.
Pahlavi, yeah, thank you, chat. I don't know why I blinked on his name. I just must hate him so much. Ebola, hi, Nick. Faye, always good to see you. The world is furious against the Anglo-American Empire. We are sick of it. Yeah, America really thinks it's the center of the world when we are only 5% of the global population. Lorshag, USA filled by evangelical psychos are the right ones to accuse Iran about theocracy. It's so hypocritical, it's infuriating. Faye, your progressive left is utterly useless. They support the imperialist status quo. That's right, and we're here to call that out. Fred, like with Gaddafi, government propaganda and pop culture have been demeaning the Ayatollahs for decades. Americans are brainwashed, fully and completely. They have knee-jerk propaganda reactions anytime you mention these people, but they couldn't tell you a thing about their legacy, their policies, or what they did for their people. Spiffity Keen, most of those people in politics just want to say what they think their authority figures want to hear, so they'll get a pat on the head. They aren't worth the consideration. The chat, you guys have been on fire today. Louis Gordon, the majority of Americans have never been to an Indian reservation here in America. I visited Ho Chunk Nation in Wisconsin outside Wisconsin Dells. I visited a few, some in California, some in Montana, and other places, and it's a tragedy how these people were genocided and then forced onto these reservations that have no infrastructure whatsoever. It's just tragic, and it's hidden from us. Like, we live in America and we have no idea that this exists in this country, and then people are living in such harsh conditions. I hate shitlibs. Fuck the DSA and NATO left. That's right. Lee Argent, what's cooking, Nick, guys? Spiffity Keen, people in the global north are mostly just made up of the hateful rhetoric of empire. There's nothing beneath it all except frightened children, which is why they refuse to deconstruct that influence and why they can't engage in intelligent debate. That's why it gets so emotional. That's why, like that guy, they just rage quit. They run from any substantive conversation. Hey, thank you for the love. Sunny, YouTube reacted to the conference held by Doctors Against Genocide marking 1,000 days of genocide in Gaza, where Gaza's steadfast doctors and engineers spoke by desubscribing hundreds of Doctors Against Genocide subscribers. Yeah, YouTube is trash. They just tried to ban Nick for a podcast that literally got to stay up on DD Geopolitics, but was banned on his channel, identical podcast. So our days on YouTube are numbered. That's why I always remind you guys, please, to follow on all backup platforms. Marvin Vargas, thank you for the $2. Who from South Central America 10? Traore, Cuba. Not everybody is free to attend because they have targets on their heads too. So keep that in mind. Sunshine, Nick always brings banger after banger after banger. Go, Nick. Faye, the US West is the true authoritarian regime, true rogue civilization. Exactly. Only fine inclines. How can the Sauds, who are the richest, be bought out by America? the reason that they're the richest is because they struck a deal with the West already decades ago to create the petrodollar. And that's why that monarchy is in power and so entrenched. And they actually fund extremism in the region. But they're 100% in bed with the West. They have a symbiotic relationship. James Starks, great analysis, Comrade Nick. Great show and all power to RBN. Thanks so much for the support. Always good to see you. Ashkan Hamadi, Israel and the US will be a footnote in the history books. Fear not. Yes, if you guys are ever feeling pessimistic, you remember all empires fall. You know, can you imagine people in the Roman Empire sitting around going, oh my God, this empire will last forever. All empires fall. Shush, 4891, Sogdems are imperialists. Absolutely, and they're only coming out of their imperialist closet more and more emboldened in my lifetime. Michael Chilbot, we need a new movement. We need to revive the old labor movements that thrived in this country, that gave us 40-hour work week, vacation. All of the gains that were made by labor socialist movements, which were massive in this country and have been sabotaged. So we actually need to revive the labor movement that is traditional in this country. Billy Joy, the imperial left like their perks on the backs of the global south. Absolutely. And a lot of them refuse to acknowledge that. Sunny, thank you for exposing the pro-imperialist compatible left, Nick. It's a passion, you know. Saturn, I hate fake CIA left more than I hate neocons. Corporate wants you to find the difference between the picture. It's really the same thing. You know, moon-eyed people, Democrats are fascist. And I saw the poll. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to it, but with the 126 votes, we had 18% of our audience saying that they still support Mamdani, which means that we have to do a much better job of showing you guys receipts and explaining why Mamdani is not worth your support. And by supporting him, you're actually supporting the system that most of you disapprove of. Rupert Fellows, Nick has integrity. Consistency is important. Absolutely. And Nick really is a nice guy. He really is a nice guy. Saturn, I know, right? It seems most of pro-Palestine activism has been co-opted by frauds like Mamdani. Absolutely sad sight to see and was really predictable. A lot of the worst faith actors jumped on board with Free Palestine when it became politically expedient and completely whitewashed their records. We have to hold people accountable to everything that they do. We should be uniting the working class, but we should not forget the people that have power and which side of the issues they stood on for decades. We can welcome them into solidarity, but we cannot trust them until they've earned that trust.
So it is love. Very well said. You're killing my friend.
Shin O'Beely, thank you for the $5. Do Dissidents Chat was asking when they'll have you back on to debate Mamdani DSA entryism strategy. They ignored it. Wow.
Once again, I'm not yelling at anyone. Like this, I'm not even yelling at anyone. I'm making my argument aggressively. And people know the argument that the pro-Mamdani crowd is making, and they hear my argument. And I make a lot of people uncomfortable. And a lot of people they feel this need that they had to defend their vote to me. I'll say this all the time. Like people feel like guilty because my arguments are so strong against them. That's all I want to do. Like if you guys want to, if anyone want to have a conversation with me about it, I'm down to. But no one has to explain that shit to me. I'm just gonna continue to make the argument why we should organize and build our own structures outside of the duopoly. I will always make that argument because that is what's been proven historically successful. While the DSA has been proven to be extremely ineffective at even accomplishing their own agenda. They can't even have their politicians maintain their agenda. Like a lot of these Zoran people, they just show you guys the Zionist reactions to Mamdani. You guys notice that? Zoe, I know you do too. Like they be like, hey, do you see how Laura Loomer had a meltdown about Zoran? Have you seen Sean Hannity call Zoran and his supporters a terrorist? And don't get me wrong, man, that's very compelling content. But a lot of these supporters, they don't even know Mamdani's position on Cuba. They don't even know that he broke the promise to limit the size of the NYPD. He's helping Jessica to disband it. A lot of them don't even know that he facilitated Palestinian land sales by supporting the Zionist project of cracking down on genocidal synagogues. So no matter what he says, that's him in his position of power facilitating the Zionist project. And these are things that I morally oppose. And I can't force people to have these same moral oppositions that I do. Like people are more malleable. Like I thought we was more angry. You know what I mean? I thought that Zionism was a red line, like after the genocide. But Mamdani is doing a great job at tranquilizing people. The anger that people had when they were exiting. Remember how everyone in Michigan was leaving the Democratic Party? Now they're getting sucked back in with liberal Zionist arguments, which I morally oppose. And that's the argument I make. If you don't have the same moral opposition that I do in terms of enabling the project of Zionism, then yeah, these are people who are more likely they're going to support Mamdani. I mean, I'm not. I said it 1,000 times before. I'm not making that trade. I would love for someone to explain why I should, but it's going to be hard to explain why I should support the sock dem devil's bargain on supporting imperialism. It's easy to debate the people on the right. That what they do on Zoran, but what about the legitimate criticism that we lay out? They don't want to have the conversation, so I'm going to continue to make my argument as loud as I can. But we can continue.
Yeah, and we're not going to have some Mortal Kombat style, debates with people. We are just going to lay out with receipts our points, and I'm surprised that others are still even indulging this perspective.
Bro, I told people, Zoe, you see, I'm like, man, if anyone's triggered by what I say about Zoran Mamdani, then have a conversation with me. You guys see how many people took me up on the offer? Not a lot of them.
Yeah, they're arguing against their own talking points that they made years ago. So that's always telling. Mac, what does the mayor of New York City have to do with NATO? It's very simple. Why is the mayor of New York City one of the most powerful economies in the world, more powerful than a lot of countries, talking about Cuba and repeating CIA talking points and supporting imperialism? He's choosing to make comments on the international debate. He's choosing to have Maduro imprisoned in New York. He's defunding libraries, funding the police, leaving a Zionist in charge of the police force. He's making all these moves. And when we don't understand, Malcolm X said it really well, that we cannot have any, I don't remember the quote exactly, maybe the chat can help, but basically if we cannot have any change in Mississippi without having change in Congo. That's basically the point of it, because what funds our Western lifestyle is our theft of the global South and our exploitation of their labor. Everything that we have is enabled by that. So if you don't understand the relationship between domestic policy here and what happens internationally, we just have more educating to do.
Yeah, and the reason why I keep bringing up NATO is because every single one of them support NATO. Like every single one of them. The DSA strategy supporting Nazism and supporting the imperialist project known as NATO, which is meant to crack down on anti-imperialist governments and socialist governments. Like that is, you have to support that if you're part of DSA. If you're part of the organizing structure. So when I talk about the members of Congress, especially the people who vote on foreign policy, they're the ones who vote for massive Ukraine aid. Like Cory Bush. You guys see how they get excited about Cory Bush? Cory Bush voted for every single one of those Ukraine aid packages. Ilhan Omar did photo ops with them. Like they are empowering the NATO war machine against Russia. So I am more perplexed about why anyone on the left would support an organization that is outright in support of imperialism. These are things that Ro Khanna used to tweet about. Like, and I mentioned before, Noam Chomsky used to warn about Nazism in Ukraine. So it's something that they don't talk about it. They try to avoid it. Another reason why they have to support it is because a lot of them got dark money donors. Like Dara Liza, she got dark money. Bram Lander, she took dark money. I suppose how Zoran Mamdani has super PACs that was funded by the Soros. I think the Soros son donated to it. And people were like, Nick, you just trying to wreck Zoran because it was during the election. I said, Zoran Mamdani take money from George Soros' son. Like, and all the politicians take money from the Soros, the Working Families Party. They have all these Zionist Democrats who set up super PACs for these progressives. And Dara Liza was even asked about this, and then she like deflected. They're like, I thought you guys were supposed to be against super PACs. So because they got these dark donors who they still not disclosing, the message that they are told by these donors and by the Democratic Party is that, yeah, you can have all the fun you want on Palestine, but the second that you cross the NATO agenda of opposing the war against Russia and calling for peace, we won't support you. You wouldn't get money. That's why they all have to do it. It's a very important flaw to point out with the DSA strategy. So hopefully that answered the question. And like Zoya said, to this guy's question in particular, if Zoran didn't want criticism on these foreign policy issues, he wouldn't chime in. He wouldn't make statements condemning Cuba and Venezuela. You can always use your position to get the issue right. You shouldn't. I will never let Mamdani live down the fact that he cracked down on pro-Palestine protests. Like, that was a direct violation of his campaign promise. So you're doing things that are helping the empire materially when you do that, and not just what position you're taking, is that what your formation and how you're enabling it. But what that's actually really do gotta go. So Zoe, you can close. I appreciate you being here for me, my friend, but I'm already kind of running late, so I appreciate you guys for watching. Zoya's love, Zoya's life. She's in the lab cooking tonight, so I'll let you finish this out. I apologize for leaving early, but hey, I gotta have a life. I'll see you guys a little bit later.
Don't worry, guys. Nick will be back. I'm going to read the Malcolm X quote to honor the man and his brilliant words accurately. As long as you think that we should get Mississippi strained out before we worry about the Congo, you'll never get Mississippi strained out. And I'll just remind you guys that the New York Police Department has an office in Tel Aviv. Rick, good to see you. The real left starts and ends with the oppressed everywhere, not just at home. Remember that, y'all. Yes, it's a pro-worker coalition, the real left. Comrade Cranky, thank you for the $5. I'm a boomer. I've been anti-war as fuck since I came back from Vietnam, 1971, and knowing that the American dream was actually a nightmare for Southeast Asians. Exactly. There are based boomers, guys. Again, don't be triggered by words that don't apply to you. Metal Nick, I've had many arguments with boomers in my family on the D and R side. Yeah, it must be triggering as fuck. Lee Argent, man, Sudan doesn't come up anywhere anymore. We actually mentioned Sudan last episode, but I agree that we should do more deep dives into Sudan and Congo and what's going on there. It's definitely on the agenda. Rami, Kalinske said he wanted to be like Northern Europe. Yeah, and that should tell you everything you need to know. CBC voter, Nick Cruse, good to see you. Love all of the people that have been hanging out with us for years. Eno Moonite people, boomer that don't support the system also don't answer polls. Yeah, and again, the elderly is one of the fastest growing unhoused populations, so it still all comes back to class war. Lorshak Molse, AOC said that the UK is socialism. I wonder if the king would agree. James Starks, COINTELPRO destroyed most of the revolutionary left and co-opted many progressives into NGOs that are pro-NATO. Absolutely. This is why it's so important that we know our history. Sunny, in Germany, it's illegal to enact a general strike. I haven't heard that. I have to fact check that, but fascism lives on in that country, I guess. Deep Green VO, thank you for the $5. This chancellor is freaking mad. Also, that guy who hung up on Bree literally argued in bad faith on her criticism of the US left. That was wild. They don't have a way to actually defend their arguments. They know we can bring up receipts that expose that their arguments do not work. So they have to, just throw a tantrum. Rami, austerity is a scam. It's a way of transferring wealth to the top. And we're all seeing that with our first trillionaire. Chanel, to me, Mamdani is part of their theater. Absolutely. Phase, so they are not able to form any effective leftist movement, but the being stupidly critical about actual socialist countries claiming they aren't communist utopia. Laughing my ass off. Yeah, it's a form of projection. Chanel, fuck this July 4th bullshit. We are not free. That's absolutely true. Unfortunately, they force us to have these national holidays where if for a lot of people, it's the only time off we can have with our families. So we're forced to take time off and celebrate on these dates, but definitely don't celebrate the genocidal American Empire. Violin, Frederick Douglass's 4th of July speech should be required reading. Absolutely. Do that for your 4th of July, guys. Billy Joel, liberals are economically illiterate. They do virtual equalities to mask their revolutionary ignorance. Well said. JMG, we need 7,000 DSA candidates for all the offices in the whole country. We tried that strategy. It doesn't work. If you run within the Democratic Party, you must be loyal to the Democratic Party. So we definitely don't need that. Luke Carlos, DSA is already owned by the ruling class. Even if they gain actual power, they will fail to change anything fundamental, and any gains will be rolled back later. And this is historically accurate. This isn't just an opinion. This is things that a lot of us have lived through already. The Shantown, thank you for $9.99. Nick, can you please say hi to Uncle G? He's a big fan. Free Palestine. I looked him up after this chat, so I'll look into him even more. Maybe he can be a guest. Leroy, these DSA leftists feel more comfortable disrespecting Bree because of Sam Cedar. You know it. Those of us that were here for it have all the receipts. Truth Seeker Tree. Nick is damn near the only pure fire truth teller. Absolutely. Chairman Meow, rise up, wretched of the earth. Violin, down with the duopoly. Luna Langton, Nick's cooking good today. Yeah, hope you guys showed up hungry. Spiffity Keen, we keep sabotaging alternative parties, therefore they don't work. Actually brain dead. This is exactly what they do to socialist countries. Like Fidel Castro was saying, you strangle us, then criticize the way we breathe. It's a dirty, dirty CIA tactic to sabotage things and then claim they don't work. Casey McCoy, Nick, I'm not going to stop the clip. 30 seconds later, rant. Deep Green, thank you for the $2. Win elections to do what? DSA in a nutshell. Kariyama, smug as a bug in a rug. Chairman Meow, 2 business parties is in democracy. Yeah, 2 parties owned by capital. Zach Back, while I don't support the 2-party duopoly, the 3rd-party route also doesn't work. Not 3rd-party winner for a major election in the 21st century. So we need an all-of-the-above approach. We need definitely a diversified approach, which doesn't exclusively focus on electoralism, that focuses more on our power with labor to hold strikes, to withhold labor, to force the system to make change by withholding our buying power. We have to use all of the above approach, but we shouldn't use any strategies that lead to dead ends. But third parties are sabotaged. Arguably, they don't work because they're sabotaged, but it's not that we couldn't all vote for a third party tomorrow. It's that they're not given ballot access and a fair shot, and maybe they never will be, which is why it's so important to organize outside of electoral politics. Violin, her eyes mean he's about to get the laser beam. This is about the Bree interview. Andries Schmall, it's too aggravating to listen to these people gaslight and more aggravating that people believe them. Most people do not know 95% of the things that we know. They are too busy working and trying to survive. That's why it's important to get that information out there. Violin, guys like this are the reason we have an entrenched genocidal duopoly. And it's a genocidal duopoly guys like him want to keep in power. Donald, once you elect them, they do what they want. You don't have any sway. Yeah, this whole hold them accountable after electing them strategy is just ignorant. Accord Lord, this guy whines about all the work he is doing, then bails like a 14-year-old girl mad at their parent. It's the only strategy they have. The entire liberal movement is very one-dimensional and immature. They love this tone policing, playing victim nonsense. Jason Dick, imagine people arguing about who the better Democrats or Republicans are in 2026. Yeah, it's really unbelievable. But Congress has a 13% approval rating. So I think there are a lot more people that are angry at the system than they would like us to believe. Sun Queen, now they have labeled us ultras. Yes, anyone that doesn't fall in line, we see the surveillance, the censorship, and the punishments are escalating. People are being labeled domestic terrorists for simply protesting. So anyone that doesn't fall in line or support the status quo is going to be labeled a dissident, and we're seeing more people going to jail just for tweets. So buckle up, guys. Techno-fascism is coming. Justin Watson, DSA warps apolitical people's understanding of socialism. It's not mild Keynesian reforms that they don't even fight for. It's collective ownership of production by the subservient class. Well said. Saul Good, I'm finishing a series on the Mayans, bitch. 1,000 episodes. Vote blue, it's working. I missed you, Sal. Andor dude, he's part of that I refuse to answer smug lib class. You guys already know. You cannot vote out fascism. If candidates run within the Democratic Party, they have to sign a loyalty pledge that makes them loyal to the party, which is a registered corporation. Exactly. I mean, we already had this lawsuit where Bernie sued the DNC, and they said that they're a private corporation with no obligation to voters that can absolutely nominate anyone. Where was the last Democratic primary, or were we just handed Kamala Harris? Named My Taco, thank you for the $5. Remember when Fred Hampton was tranquilized by elections? The Panther model's successful because they didn't need anything. Gun laws were to suppress them. Gun laws were definitely to suppress them. Leroy, credentialing meltdown. Yeah, they love doing the credential thing. But what credentials do you have from the system before you can have a logical thought? Dark Knights, bro, I just don't get it. I don't get how Americans are not seeing through this BS. A lot of Americans are. I believe there's more of you out there. Subscribe to the channel. Come on, guys. Justin Watson, his class still benefits from the status quo. All the professional class liberals do, and that's why they push permissive reformism. Decent left US. She broke his safe space bubble. Exactly. It's just infantilized behavior. For Three Kingdom, They hate forced the vote because they never came up with an answer for it. There was no answer for it. There's no justification. There's no excuse. They just basically told us that now's not the time to challenge power when they had the power that we created for them with the grassroots movement. The franchise, the DSA is some truly fake left shit. It's all good. It's the same Obama did. Use the grassroots to get elected and then turn on them. Absolutely. I was working with organizations that Obama made promises to and gained their support just to throw them under the bus and actually pass policies that were against his campaign promises. Amanda, ooh, thank you for the $2. Wake up. This is serious. No joke. It bad. Thank you. Dark Knights, do you know how many times I drove my Subaru Outback back to the library to study imperialism? Yeah, it's so sad and it's so funny. Mark Puglisi, thank you for the $5. Hey, remember when they turned Ryan Grimm into the autopilot from Airplane? The voodoo cuisine. Grimm been on the right side in Gaza because it's easy, but he is not a class traitor and doesn't care about working people. Exactly. That's why he was on the wrong side of the railway strike and Shama held him out. That was also on a Bad Faith podcast episode if you guys want to look it up. Named My Taco, thank you for the $2. Nick, Nico, and Jamal would be great to see. Duly noted. We'll try to make it happen. GeoBot, thank you for the $20 for Zoya's OT. Thank you so much, guys. And that brings us to the end of the chats. I'm just going to remind you guys to hit that like, subscribe, hit the notification bell because YouTube suppresses these episodes. Please follow us on all backup platforms, Twitch, Kick, Twitter. And also remember the Gaza funds that we're supporting with our bonfire merch. The link is in the description. Nick will be on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Jamal's show Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. The best way to support the show is on Patreon. You can find him at Socialist MMA. And just remember that everything that you guys do matters. Organize in your local community, do what you can, help people out. This is a generational struggle, and we still have a world to win and a life to live. So stay positive, keep that revolutionary optimism going, and always remember love and solidarity.